I'm sure the child was curious, like, oh, I've never seen somebody like this, and the child touched me. I don't know if the child was thinking that some melanin will rub off or what. I don't know what the child was doing, but the child really like touched me to see if I was real. Hello my friends, welcome back to my channel. So today's video, I get this question from my comment section from time to time, and also in my DMs on Instagram, and that's why I decided to make a video about this topic. Today's video is going to be about racism in Germany. My personal experience, let me just put that disclaimer there. I'm speaking from my own personal experience, and that's about that. Before we get into the video, you guys know how it goes. If you are not subscribed to my channel, please subscribe. What are you waiting for? You know you like this if you keep coming back over and over. And if you're new, welcome. Thank you very much for being here. I really appreciate you. Why don't you consider subscribing? Yes, and if you would like to follow me on Instagram, it's at Wale Chronicles. Now, let's get into this very serious and deep topic. Now, talking about racism in Germany, as a person of color, specifically as a black woman in Germany. I think I already made a video with a friend of mine on what it's like for us being black in Germany. I will leave it in the description box. If you've not seen that video, you can go and watch it, and I will also leave it somewhere here, or yeah, wherever. From my own personal experience here in Germany, discrimination, this video is unscripted. I have not made any outline for this video, so like I turned on the camera to give like a candid. I didn't want to like structure anything I'm going to say. I wanted to give it plain how it is and dive into it, right? So maybe my thoughts will be all over the place in this video. I don't know. I just turned on the camera and I'm going with it, and I'm just going to talk about my raw, real experience as a person of color, specifically as a black woman in Germany. Racism or no racism, have I experienced it? What's it like? So personally for me, fortunately for me, and unfortunately for some people that already have some misconceptions and preconceptions about Germany, I will say personally I haven't faced any situation of, I'm trying to think about it now, but so far in the almost 3 years I've been living in Germany, I have not faced any situation of racism, except one. I'm going to tell you guys the story, but generally I try to keep the mindset, I try to keep an open mindset, and I don't take things that some people do to heart. So I would say in my experience personally, I have not experienced anything extreme, just like little things from here and there, and I don't dwell on it. As soon as it happens and I correct the person immediately, then I just delete it from my brain, and it doesn't really cloud my experience so much, which is why many times when I think about it, I'm like, yeah, I haven't really experienced, but then I have to really focus and like, oh, this thing actually happened, because I remove it from my mind. So I would say one of the reasons why I have not experienced racism so at all or so much in Germany is because I live in the most diverse and multicultural city in Germany, which is Berlin. So in Berlin, there are many people that look like me, many people that look different cultures, many people that don't look like me, many people that don't look like what you would think a German person should look like. It's just a mix, like a melting pot of different people from different parts of the world. Therefore, like, they are so used to having different like cultures and different types of people that it would be very unusual to actually, for me, to experience racism personally. But when I step outside of Berlin and I go somewhere in Brandenburg, for instance, for those that don't know, Brandenburg is the state that surrounds Berlin. So Berlin is a city-state. It's a state and a city, but it is surrounded by another state called Brandenburg. So I always say whenever I go to Brandenburg, I can already feel that I am an anomaly, like I am unusual in these parts, because then people start to stare at me, which is like, for me, I don't find it uncomfortable when people stare at me. I mean, I sit in front of the camera and talk to whoever on the internet. So staring doesn't make me uncomfortable. So, and many times I don't even notice that I'm being stared at. Somebody else notices, and like, look, these people are staring at you. I'm like, oh really? Yeah, that's because I fly. That's what I tell myself in my head to cope. Anyway, so, did I just say so? So very German of me. But yeah, and oh, there was one time I also went to the north of Germany to what's this place called? Ostsee. Yeah, I went to the northeast of Germany, that's the Ostsee, and this part of Germany was super white German. Like in this place, when I went there, I went for a weekend. Oh, people really stared. And I even heard like one child was asking, I was walking in a group of, like I was walking and there was a massive group, everybody was walking in one direction, so many people. And one child was asking the parents, I was talking to somebody in English actually, and one child was asking the parents like, what are these people speaking? Like the child was, of course, children are very curious. And the person was asking like, what are these people speaking? And the mother was like, oh yeah, they're speaking Auslandish, they're speaking foreign language. It was so funny for me. I just bursted out laughing. I was like, wow, speaking foreign language. But that's not racism. That's just like people not being used to seeing people who are different or people who speak a different language, I guess. So that's like one experience I've had. I also had like when I went to this part of Germany, I don't remember the name of the town now, but I will put it somewhere on the screen. It's in the super northeast of Germany. So when I went to the supermarket, like people were staring, one child even like, and then she left her mom and then she came to touch me. She came to touch me, I was like, and the mom was like, oh my god, I'm so sorry. I'm like, yeah, it's okay. I'm sure the child was curious, like, oh, I've never seen somebody like this, and the child touched me. I don't know if the child was thinking that some melanin will rub off or what. I don't know what the child was doing, but the child really like touched me to see if I was real. For me, that was so funny. I was like, ah. In my mind, I was like, do you want an autograph too? No, not really. But that was a very interesting experience for me. And the thing with the staring in Germany, I think I've spoken about this in the previous video. I don't know, many videos, I say many things, I don't remember. But the thing is, like, if you're not being used to stared at, the staring in Germany can be a bit uncomfortable, in the sense that when I was living in Indonesia, I was also stared at, but the staring in Indonesia was kind of different because I feel like the German people have a very straight face. Like maybe they're thinking nice things about you in their mind, but their face will look so straight and like so unfriendly. That's the perception of the face that you will get. So it's like, oh, when you're being stared at with such perceived unfriendly face, maybe that's just their resting bee face, I don't know, but it's a bit like uncomfortable. So I think that's one of the reasons people talk about being stared at in Germany, because the facial expression of the staring is not very nice to be at the receiving end of that. They're probably thinking nice things about you. I don't know what people think in their mind, and I don't try to wonder what people are thinking in their mind. I don't have control over that, so I don't care what people are thinking in their mind. I just care about what me I'm thinking in my mind. So yeah, that's one of the things you will experience a lot. But will that be considered racism? No, I wouldn't say that's racism or discrimination or anything in my books. Personal opinion once again. The most extreme case of, I wouldn't call it racism, I would call it discrimination. The most extreme case of discrimination that I had was with in the former place I used to live, with my downstairs neighbor. So this is going to turn into a story time. I've told many of my friends this story many times. And it was such a dramatic, it was so dramatic. Anyway, so in the former apartment I used to live in, I had this downstairs neighbor that were considered, I didn't know at the time, but they are considered non-friendly to foreign people. Me, I did not know. I was living in my room, very happy. And then when the lockdown started last year in 2020, they were like, don't go out of your house, do this, don't do this. So nobody was sure what was going on. And then I decided to do some HIIT, heat exercise in my room, which, thinking back now, that was not the smartest idea for me. I was like doing some jumping jacks, some like activities where I was jumping in my room, and that was not the smartest decision, but I didn't think about it that time. So my downstairs neighbor, the female one, or the wife, whatever she was, came to my door, and she was really banging the door, like really loud, hammering on the door, and I was out of breath. because of the stupid exercise I was doing in the house, because I did, like, they were like, don't go outside because of this pandemic, stay at home. So anyway, she came to the door and she was banging on the door with so much force, and I thought like maybe the building was on fire or something. So I quickly ran to the door and I opened the door. I was like, yeah, I was like trying to be nice, but I was out of breath as well. So she's like, who is, she was saying it in German, like, who is the person in this, like, in this room jumping? I was like, oh, it's me. And she was like, well, some of us have to work. She was saying it with so much aggression, like, some of us have to work. In my mind, I'm like, well, so do I. I don't know what you mean by that, but we all have to work. But she was like, what am I doing in that room? She was saying it with so much aggression. And I'm like, well, yeah, I was exercising. She was like, well, some of us have to work. You're making noise. You're disturbing me. And I was, in my mind, I was still like trying to formulate, because first of all, my German was not at the time very good. So I still need time to construct my sentence before I say it. And of course, I was out of breath as well. So I was still trying to construct the sentence in my mind to say, oh, I'm really sorry. I didn't realize that I was disturbing you. Yeah, I'm very sorry. I really apologize. As I was still saying it, bringing this word out, saying it to her, she was just like, shut your trap. She said it to me in German. And I don't know, maybe it was a combination of being in lockdown, not being able to speak to anybody or see anybody. I just flipped. I was like, oh, did she just tell me to shut my trap? So then, she said halt Maul oder so. I think halt Maul is shut your trap. And then for me, somebody had been teaching me some German words, and I was like, halt die Fresse, du blöde Kuh. I went from like 0 to 100. I was like, shut your trap, you stupid cow. I think I learned that from German TV. These are the things I was learning. Of course, the woman was upset and then she went away. So that was the beginning of the hatred in that building. So all her family members that I used to say hello to before as neighbors, everybody stopped answering my hello. Like anytime I passed on the staircase and I said hello, they didn't answer me anymore. I was like, okay, well, I keep my hello to myself. And then some months later, I had a friend visiting me, and then now I'm laughing, like, yeah, I was actually, after the dramatic outburst on that day, I was actually laughing too. So anyway, some months later, I had a friend visiting me, and then we went out, came back, and we were having a conversation in the room. She was even telling me a traumatic story. And I was like sitting down like, oh my God, I cannot believe it. And then somebody came to ring our bell. My flatmate answered, and then the woman downstairs, this time she sent her husband because since I called her a bluder coup the last time, she sent her husband to come and confront me this time. So the husband came and he was like, who are the people in this room that we are making so much noise, like the ceiling wants to cave in, wants to fall down. And I was like, wow. I was like, we're just sitting here having a conversation. We weren't even moving. We were like still. And we were not shouting, because I remember clearly she was telling me a very traumatic story. And I was really like, wow, that's so sad, you know? So there's no way it could have been. My flatmate was actually watching TV very loudly, and I could even hear my flatmate. She was like, yeah, the ceiling wants to cave in and so on. And then I was asking my flatmate, I was like, did you hear us making any noise in your room? He was like, no, he didn't hear anything. So I was like, so why is this man coming to attack us and say like we're making noise? I was telling the man very calmly, I was like, we didn't make any noise. We were just like having a conversation. And as I was still able to speak, while I was yet speaking, as we'll say it in Nigeria, while I was yet speaking, the guy just moved from, he just said it in German, like, if this is how you do it in Africa, we don't do it here. This is Germany. We don't do it here in Germany. Of course, I flipped. This was in lockdown period. So it was like, I had lots of triggers in lockdown time. I just flipped when he said that, because I was like, first of all, why would you assume every black person you meet, I don't know you. Why would you assume I'm from Africa? I could be from the US, I could be from anywhere. So why are you stereotyping, you know? So I just flipped from there. I was like, oh hell no. I was from 0 to 100. I started yelling and screaming. He was yelling and screaming at me to speak in German. Me, I was yelling and screaming in English. I was like, oh hell no. I don't want to say all the things I said on the internet in case my employer finds this video. Anyway, like I was like giving it to him hot, and he was also like giving it to me in German. So I was trying to slam the door in his face because he came to our apartment and coming to tell me rubbish. And I wanted to slam the door, and the guy was pushing the door. It was like, my flatmate was like, "You're trying to break into our apartment. We're gonna call the popo. We're gonna call the police." It was so dramatic. My friend who came to visit from another country was so shocked. She was like, I think that was her first impression about Germany, and it was not very good. I had to tell her that normally Germany is not like this. These are just very nasty people and unfriendly with a lack of manners on how to approach people, because I think that's the problem. The problem is they don't know how to approach people, because now I live in an apartment where my upstairs neighbors are super loud, and even when I want to complain, I go with a smile. I'm like, sorry, excuse me. Like, you approach people very nicely, but these my neighbors, they seem to have missed the class on how to be a polite adult in society, so they did not know how to approach me. And me, I was in lockdown, so I got triggers. So me, I was like itching for a fight. Anyway, after that dramatic episode, then of course my neighbors hated me from then, and I hated them back. So whenever like we would pass each other, we would like act like we both did not exist, and they would stare at me with so much coldness, and I would stare right back with equal coldness. Like, I don't know if I have a cold look, but what I imagine my cold look to look like, that's what I was sending right back to them. Anyway, thankfully, I moved out of that whole situation. But I would say that's the most extreme situation I encountered so far. And knock on wood, fingers crossed, I hope I never have to experience anything nasty or discriminatory in that sense ever again. And yeah, so this video is like all over the place. I talked about just what I've experienced so far, and nothing too extreme, I would say. And even this other one, I wouldn't say it's racism really. I would say, or I wouldn't even say it's discrimination. I would just say it's a combination of lockdown and people not having manners on how to speak to people, and me being ready to give them their change sofort, immediately. But I'm generally very even-tempered, generally. Anyway, yeah, so that's my take on racism. I'm sorry if you came to this video and you thought you were going to hear something extreme of how people were punching each other or how people were being... No, sorry, that's not my experience in Germany so far. I really have met really wonderful and amazing people. I have such a wonderful family here in Germany. I just like very accepting and open. So yeah, that's my experience. Germany, are there racist? Of course there are racist people like everywhere in the world. Are there people who experience extreme racism? Of course there are. But in my personal experience, I haven't, and I'm happy and grateful that I haven't experienced anything extreme so far, and I hope that stays the same way. So thank you very much for watching this video. Story times are my favorite type of videos to make, actually. I'll think of something dramatic that happens in my life again so I can make a story time. Thank you very much, you guys, for watching this video, and don't forget to give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed this content, and I will see you in my next video. Bye.